Marty McTeague with School Marketing. This is the Business Huddle. We're super excited to have John Klick on today, and we will be talking about some EOS stuff, your background, getting into some fun stuff as well, things you like to do outside of the everyday work and whatnot as well. Nice. But we're super excited to have you. We are an EOS company here at School Marketing, and so it's near and dear to our hearts, and I know it's super beneficial, and it's something that we want to make sure that businesses know about. So wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself, and we're going to kind of kick things off with just background. How'd you get started? What got you into becoming an EOS implementer?
Yeah. Quite a journey, let me tell you. So my background's I'm not sure if I love the term serial entrepreneur, but I've owned and started several businesses and exited some. So I do have some entrepreneurial chops, and I've always run that course, is owning a business, working for myself, employing people. And so that started way back in the, I ran a business. My first business that I got to run wasn't my own. Outside of, did my own lawn mowing company when I was 13 or 14 and
Everyone does,
yeah, all that stuff.
Yep.
So, early start, got the entrepreneurial chops, but that was good stuff because you had to go knock on the door and ask someone to, at 12 years old, if you could mow their lawn for $12 an hour or $15. But at any rate, So back to the start, way back. I'm a Johnny. Went to St. John's. Had a international business degree.
Fellow Johnny here, of course.
Yes, of course. Nice. I love that. And then, so from there, I went and sold photocopiers. In fact, we were just chatting about that before the podcast. I see Chuck Foreman. I got to work with him at a family business and selling photocopiers, smiling and dialing, knocking on doors, combing the business park, such and stuff like that. So I got my business chops there, at least my sales chops there. And then I did have an opportunity to run a small business in Eden Prairie from there. And so that was great. It wasn't mine. It was called Urban Communications, and they were into sound and lighting and staging and audio-visual backup for events, from corporate sales meetings to concerts.
Sure.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, and that was a good, that was my first opportunity to be an entrepreneur, but I guess, or at least to run a business for someone, I guess. So that's not entrepreneurship, but did that, and I learned a ton of business there. Was able to turn that company around. That's a great story because the first phone call I got when I sat down at my desk was the IRS looking for 2 quarters worth of payroll withholdings. I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
So as I was trying to figure that out before the internet, the next call was the state of Minnesota looking for 3 quarters of sales tax withholdings.
Sure.
So I had to figure that out. So through security, getting some sort of organization into that business and picking up some nice new accounts business, we did a concert tour with Lori Line, if you know who she was. She's a concert pianist locally here.
Sure.
Helped our revenue and put in some process, and all of a sudden turned it around and helped that business owner sell that company. And
awesome.
Then from there, I did start my own company. That was my first entrepreneurial jump into it, and where I was using my money and co-started a company off of Beanie Babies, believe it or not.
Amazing.
So a marketing-based company. We supplied promotional merchandise.
Sure.
One of the avenues of marketing.
Yeah.
But we were into trendy merchandise. So we found Beanie Babies as our first vehicle.
Love it.
And we were selling them to banks so that they could help open checking accounts with some of the Thai Beanie Baby bears.
Oh, yeah. That was a big trend for sure.
That was a huge trend. We were really knee-deep into Beanie Babies. There's a secondary black market out there, by the way, that you can buy all sorts of Beanie Babies I learned about. We were meeting guys in airport parking lots with like a briefcase of like $20,000 for 15 Thai Princess Diana bears or something. We literally were doing that type of stuff. But at any rate, so that's innovative marketing consultant. That's where I learned about EOS, and that was the segue there. We started that business in '99. Ran a good business, but in 2008, I heard this guy talk about EOS. His name was Mike Payton. He's one of the original implementers, and he wrote a couple of the books. I think one of the books I dropped off for you, Get a Grip, was Mike Payton's book. And he changed our lives. We had a good business. We didn't think we needed to do anything differently, but through a peer group, this guy was talking, and we jumped in and got the book, drank the Kool-Aid, and turned it into a great business. And so
amazing.
Yeah, so that's where my journey started with just knowing about it. Had no inclination or any aspirations of being an EOS implementer at the time.
How big was your team when you kind of started the EOS?
We were about just a small 9-person business, but we were clicking around about a couple $1 million.
Sure.
And then after we implemented the system, just by putting a lot more focus on data and holding people accountable, first setting the vision.
Yeah.
So people knew what we were trying to do. We weren't just coming to work anymore. That wasn't just the reason we were coming there.
Yeah.
It helped us bump that business up. So we had brought on sales management and better sales seats and found out where I fit in the business. I was really happy to know that there's such a position as a visionary, because that was giving me a lot of freedom to know that was an actual function, because I was a unknown visionary until I found out about EOS. So
yeah.
So anyway, so we built that up. I took a small exit to start. Now that company, even though we were in Beanie Babies, we found all sorts of other promotional merchandise, trendy merchandise, not just your pens and pencils and coffee mugs and stuff like that. We were into trinkets and trash, no doubt. Yeah. But we got into the beverage industry pretty heavily.
Okay.
And so so at the end of the day, the trinkets that the wares that we were hawking, I guess, if you will, were Mardi Gras beads. And we were selling about $4 million worth of Mardi Gras beads.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, but where we found them is we were really one of the way we got into it was through the sports industry. And
sure.
we've had these beads that were shaped like footballs and basketballs.
Yeah.
And just in team colors. So we were able to get those in just about most of the professional stadiums without a license. We were pretty happy about that. Went through a collegiate license process. That was a disaster. And we just found out we had this product that we could sell on a retail level without any licenses, and they still are available today. If you go to a Wild game, you'll see the hockey pucks all around.
Oh, they're everywhere.
And what's really great, that company...
Tailgating, all that stuff.
And since I left that business, they continued that many more product lines, but that one continued. So if you see the big chains now that you see on... Yeah, those usually
Kirko chains.
Yeah, those chains somehow they touch. Their factory produced them and brought them in. They don't have the license, but they send them, I think, to a guy in Detroit, and then he puts all the logos on them and sells them. So
that's
like
crazy.
To watch every sport, and I'm like, hey, I know those guys.
That's amazing. That's cool to see like that build up. And I mean, it's so true. Every time you go to a tailgate or a happy hour that the team's putting on or something like that, I mean, they just hand you something to make you purple or whatever color the team is.
Yeah, and then that just resonated to brands.
Yeah.
Right. And so I always laugh. I'm like, if the Captain Morganettes were giving it out, we were the ones who were trying to supply it to Diageo. They had these procurement companies that bought for them nationally for the Mardi Gras programs, the St. Patrick's Day program. So we really got active in the beverage industry. We're bringing the sports, and then it just got into any kind of Mardi Gras beads. Just if we could put a light on a chain and make it light up on St. Patrick's Day, we were trying to be the company that provided those to the national level catalogs and such. So that got us into the beverage industry, and that's exactly how all of a sudden I went to a trade show called the Craft Brewers Conference.
Yeah.
And that was for the craft brewing industry, and that was back in 2007, I think.
Sure.
Maybe 2008. And, things were happening, booming here. We just thought we could maybe try to sell them some Mardi Gras beads. And we didn't sell a bead to the craft breweries, by the way.
Interesting.
That was very Budweiser.
Yeah.
And they weren't Budweiser.
They were not looking for that, for sure.
They didn't want that. No, so I didn't sell a thing, but I met some great people and learned about the beer industry as an industry. I was drinking my Summit, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
And Fulton was new on the scene, and Surly was changing laws. And Liftbridge was out there, and Harriet Island was a tap room that people were really into. So I found my next widget. And when I was at the Craft Brewers Conference, as I was in my booth and talking to the people there, none of them bought anything from me, but they were great people to hang out with and drink beers. And then I read the trade mags and found that this craft beer industry was for real, and it was coming. Yeah. And so I founded Excelsior Brewing Company, not knowing a thing about making beer.
Amazing.
It was a widget. But I ran the business on EOS. So I had a system, I had a process. It's EOS is typically for established businesses, but you can use the same tools for your startups.
Start it up,
Yeah, and I did, and that's the only reason that brewery still exists today. Well, a couple other reasons. Good people, obviously, business partners. And, but that was a system that I used EOS just to run a business I knew nothing about, and making beer is complex.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you're forming the team then, and you're, as you said, I don't know anything about brewing beer. How are you going out there and finding that person and starting it out? And have you what is there a beer that you have your name on that you contributed or were the brewer?
Big Island Blonde was was just the original beer that I always wanted to start. I didn't make it. I didn't make the recipe for it. Just branding and that and the brewery, the name and everything. So, but first you have to find some money. So I found two other guys that knew nothing about the beer industry too. And what was interesting about that part of the business, that's hard, right? Raising money. You have to sell your dream. But that craft beer industry was hot, and people were passionate. They didn't care where they were throwing money. They wanted in. So being out in the Excelsior, Minnetonka, Wayzata area, we, it's a pretty affluent area. So it was pretty interesting to me how many people, when I said, hey, I'm starting a brewery, and just kind of talking big at the time, didn't really have a full plan. Yeah. Nothing full baked. But all of a sudden people are like, really? You need any money? I'm like, yes, I do. But I knew I needed more than money. Yeah. I wanted some talent with that money. I didn't need helicopter investors, but I wanted active investors. And so I met a couple guys at our kids' Little League game. Yeah. I always say T-ball, but they never played T-ball. But, it was coach pitch, machine pitch. Yeah. Met a couple guys, told them my dream, and they those two had the chops. They had the pocketbooks, obviously, but they also I had a CFO come on board that I was like, great, I have a strong financial background there now. My finance seat's been filled. It's amazing. And then another guy that was great with process and very good at focus. And so I knew that I had a really great integrator type person to help me get this off the ground. So through Patrick Foss and John Lewin, those are my two business partners. Sweet. Three-legged table. We started a company not knowing nothing about nothing. But then we did start homebrewing. Yeah. And figured, we're not making the beer. We never had it. It's
hard, man. Yeah, I've done it. And it's, it always tastes, pretty good. But then you're like, I think the other guys do it better. And Excelsior Brewing does a great job.
Thanks. Yeah. So anyway, we bought a home brew system, a pretty unique one, a good one, so we kind of were these choppers coming out with buying the best of the best. So, but we had a business to start. So we just wanted to learn how to make beer. We wanted to know the process, but we always knew we were hiring a professional brewer to run the ops seat. Yeah. And so through that, we met a guy and we made horrible beer. He made good beer. But we were making horrible beer. But quickly found out that I'm not detail oriented enough to be a brewer by any means.
It's a science for sure.
Sure is. So, but and so that was how we started the place, and then I just created the brand with and then the marketing aspect and the sales behind the scenes, and being the face of the company was I was the visionary and sales seat. Yeah. Yeah.
When I know you mentioned for EOS, it's tends to be really good for if you've already had an established business and now you're trying to take it to the next level, sort of thing. Yeah. For those businesses that are starting out and a brand new business, like what are the benefits like that? I think about specifically some of the things like I wish process like those sort of things just make it even if you're the end thing that you deliver isn't maybe up to the snuff that you want it to be, the process that you take somebody through or something like that can really elevate the whole experience, which makes it so much better. So like thinking about that side of things, just specifically, I guess, like what are some areas that you're like thinking a brand new business, these things would be like core elements that like EOS is something you should be thinking about on that side as well.
Yeah, I think so. EOS, typically a perfect target market, as we define it in EOS, is the people that are really going to that it appeals to it, the system as its whole. Typically companies with 10 to 250 employees. Sure. A lot of times we have that entrepreneur that, wow, holy buckets, they started a business with themselves or 2 or 3 or 4 other people, but now they look down, they got 15, 16 people working with them. Yeah. And now we've introduced a ton of complexity. Mm-hmm. And so that's where a system really comes into play really nice. And that's where we say EOS is perfect for those people that might be frustrated, because a lot of times when you get in a business to that $1 million, $2 million point, and now you look down and, I did this because I didn't want to work for the man.
Yeah.
Well, now you're working for 12 humans,
Yeah.
So you got all these employees that you're working for and you have to answer for. So you've introduced all this complexity into the business. So that's where EOS really comes in to help harness all that.
Yeah.
Help people, focus on the vision, identify it, and then drill it down and use all the accountability tools it has to offer. So, but with that said, every tool in there, yes, I believe can be implemented anywhere along the lines in a business. Scorecards to just help us. Well, first of all, I love our VTO for any size business. The Vision Traction Organizer, that's our 2-page business plan. And if I was to do it again, and I did it with the brewery, but that was nice because I knew about EOS, but starting a business, I'd look at that 2-page business plan and help just at least in 1 page define what the vision looks like so you got it in your head what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Then you can communicate that as you bring people on and say, this is what we're trying to do. And then this backside of that document is the traction side, and that's implementing the accountability. And we say, now this is how we're going to achieve it. So that tool alone, I think any type of business can implement, especially with themselves. If you're just a one person, just get that stuff out of your head onto paper so you can see, you can visualize it. Right?
Yeah.
And then you can back it out and figure out what I have to do to focus on to make sure we get it. And then, but scorecards, making sure everybody has measurables, or you hear them as KPIs. We like to call them measurables because we know that if you measure something, it gets improved, or it gets done, or gets improved most of the time, we hope. So I think scorecards are beautiful tools that any startup could use. The accountability chart, that's, typically, that's our org chart, right?
Yeah, as you get bigger and have more people.
Yeah, you could have a bunch of boxes on it when you're just starting, but guess what? You're going to be sitting in every one of the boxes. And if you remember, in the rule of the accountability chart, it's our org chart that defines the roles as well for every function. And you can sit in multiple boxes if you have enough time to do it well. But you can't two people can't sit in one box. It's an accountability tool to help say that, focus on who's accountable for achieving the results. But anyway, right now it would be in a startup business, you're sitting in every box. So your capacity issues are already the first issue you have.
Yeah.
Time issues.
I think that's a great way to kind of explain EOS to a business owner that's like, hey, this is what we need to do, and how how it can be beneficial for you. I even think early on, obviously we had heard about EOS and we've been seeing a business coach since the beginning of our business, basically. But as we grew, that was the aha moment, especially is that team size, and it can happen pretty quick. Where we were a company of around 6 people in 2020, and we almost doubled that size in a couple of years, and that's where you're doing a bunch of the great work that you were continuing to do, and you need all these people, but having that structure and realizing now, now we need to have some accountability for each team, and laying out maybe the layers of who's going to be the leaders, and developing more systems and processes for them to then follow and make sure that how can we make sure everyone's kind of doing their thing, but also when you hire a new person, how can we make it easy for them to join the team?
Yeah, that as well. But what's in addition to that, what's really great about when you are adding people and using that accountability chart, something's going to have to give. You're going to need to elevate. So you're creating extensions of yourselves as you're adding more employees, especially young companies. So you're bringing those people on to help your capacity to take off things off your plate. And so that's what I love about the accountability chart. As you start finding yourself in all these different seats, what is your unique ability? What do you love to do and you're great at, and now you can put a plan together, because if you mapped it out with that accountability chart, again, an org chart with the roles defined in it, you can find out where you're going to sit and what value, the best place that you're going to bring the most value to the business. So,
for sure.
So as you grow, you got to give.
Would you say the people area is one of the biggest challenges that businesses before they start on EOS? Is that the biggest one, or is it layers of things? What are kind of some of those challenges?
Well, biggest, I don't know. People issues are always issues. It seems like they're almost evergreen issues, but there's always going to be some sort of people issue going on, unless we can nip it in the bud and implement great tools that EOS has to offer. So we say right people, right seat, right? So right people exhibit the core values, they fit our culture like a glove, and right seats, they actually get it, want it, and have the capacity to do the job they've been assigned on that accountability chart. So you have to have both. And early on in business, a lot of times we're reactive. And you get excited because somebody can fog the mirror really, really well, or they can do a really good job at, and so you hire them on to do it, but then you find out maybe they're not a great cultural fit. So you got to kind of navigate through things like that. So I do see a lot of times in earlier startup businesses that, wow, maybe that wasn't a great hire because of the fact that they do a good job, but they're just not. It's not a fit. So I've seen that before, or the other way around, where you hired a friend. Hey, we're starting a business.
Yeah,
we're going to do this, and we're going to be buddies forever, and we're going to have a great business, and we're going to grow it. But all of a sudden, you find out that they don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to do the job well. So you got to have both of those things, and that's where I see early on in some businesses that they've just made some hires that weren't perfect, and so that's where you see some people issues come into.
Sure. Yeah.
On earlier base too.
Why is it that marketing often struggles without like processes in place and things of that nature?
Well, the first thing we do, it's interesting. We help teams in EOS implement a marketing strategy. So we're not trying to teach them. I mean, we'll leave the marketing to the experts. Hire an expert or hire a guy like you.
Yeah.
Right? Come in and do it. But let's define exactly what it is that we are trying to. Let's give you a tool. Let's give Skoll the ideal market profile. With the acronym, we could just call it target market. So, so ultimately, let's help define that. Let's define who they are, geographic, where do they live, how do they think, and demographic, who are they, right?
Yeah.
Let's tee that up for you, the ideal customer, the one person or the perfect customer that I would love to work with, because you know what? There's so many not so perfect customers out there.
Yeah.
So why waste any time or energy going after those folks? So we try to define that, to tee it up for folks like you, or if we have a marketing specific person, this is the only place we want to go. And then once we've identified the perfect client profile, then we just, what is it that we're going to say? And those are what we call in EOS the 3 uniques, right? That's our value proposition. So get that defined and get everybody in the business from top to bottom to be able to recite those so they know exactly why their company is better than anybody else that does what they do. And then at least if we can formulate that, and if we have a process to follow that really helps us identify or illustrate out how we take care of our clients, a proven process, we try to do those things, help the client do that, so then they can tee it up and we can go hold marketing agencies or marketing departments accountable, because then we can set those measurables and what we're trying to achieve with that marketing strategy.
Right. It's I mean, everything you just described is basically like, that's the VTO, like, right here it is, like marketing company, run with what our goals are, this is what we're trying to do. Here's our ideal customer. Here's, here's how you can talk about us. I mean, it's a perfect mix, and it does really fit well, like as a marketing agency, when we see that stuff and we know, there's definitely clients that we've had where you ask them who their ideal customer is, and it's everybody. And it's a joke, but it is like those sort of things. I'll work with anybody, and that's a thing that, like, early on, that's the thing, is like you say yes to every project, and sometimes you don't have the opportunity to say no, and because of like you're starting out and you're just you feel like you need to, but there is an element of that's where the learning comes in, and then once you kind of establish some of those things, then you're able to say, hey, like, no, I actually, like, we do a really good job with these types of people, and I always think of even some of, like, if it's a client that is in the home services or something, it's western suburbs, big giant house. Absolutely, those are ideal customers. But, like, you also might do thousands of small homes as well, and I know maybe one of those big homes could account for a certain number of the small homes, but it is a good opportunity to think about, like, who do you like working with? Who do you
It's like, that's when I say the perfect customer, I don't just mean the one with the biggest pocket, but who's the one that's enjoyable to work with, easy to work with, And so I like to look at that as well. Now, we don't always have the luxury of that. But if you could define the target market, who would it be that we'd want to get in bed with? Who would we want to work with? Now, I do believe it can be a filter as well. So we might we might get phone calls from people outside that defined target market. We just didn't spend any time, energy, resources trying to get that person to call. Somehow they just ended up finding us. They called us, and now you can use that target market, that marketing strategy as a filter. Maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze working with that. Maybe they're just going to be too small, too much work for us and things like that. So it can be a filter as well. But other times I tell people, yeah, you might take that client on, but we're just not going to do anything to try to get them. We know that there's an infinite amount of business in that target perfect market. So let's just spend our time, resources, and energy getting those people because it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. I'm curious about this is a great kind of segue into success stories because it's, essentially like defining those things. Like would love to just hear, a success story you have of like, implementing EOS and something that, you saw like it could have been immediate impact or that next year. I know for us personally, like, as a company, the first year was definitely like we're doing a ton of stuff and it's like wild how much and it wasn't like a growth year that first year, but that next year was like a wow, like this made impacts and that's the aha moment of like you have to do so much work initially setting things up, but it's necessary work to establish and make sure that you're able to take it to the next level. And some companies are different than others, but I would love to hear a success story on your end.
First in that VTO document again, we talk about our core focus, right? And a lot of times you might know the core focus as the vision statement or the hedgehog concept, or you call it what you will. And core focus is kind of a trite or kind of corporate term, and I'm sorry to say it, but it does come from the core. So once we've identified, if we can really identify where somebody's purpose or the passion crosses with the niche or what they actually do, that's their core focus. So once we know that people are within that realm and we know where they're going to focus and we've set the marketing strategy on how we're going to accomplish it through that marketing strategy, then all of a sudden, if we can get people there and they're not trying to do everything and be everything for everybody, and the word focus does get implemented, that's where the magic starts to happen. So, and I've seen it go both ways with clients where people have gone away from their focus because what happens a lot of times we see with a lot of entrepreneurial companies is when they get, especially smaller ones, when they get good at something, they get cocky and they think they can do other things and they deviate from that. So kind of the opposite of answer to your question is where I've seen people go off the rails, where they've been in one line of business, they took on a client with their service and they liked what their client did, so they bought them. And it just deviated the business or two different businesses and it ruined them, so they didn't stay focused. So that's the first key I would say of anybody that has a success story is set that core focus. Where does your passion cross what you do and what is it you're trying to accomplish with your business? And what are you doing to do that? How many lives are you trying to change? And so if that's your purpose in life, if you're an employment agency, talent staff, we want to make sure that we hit, I want to change 5,000 lives. Oh yeah, how do you do that? Well, through creative job placement. So anyway, long-winded way to kind of going on a tangent with that is so companies that once they've identified that and they can surely stay focused and go on their lane, it's magical. And I mean, Saltbox is a great company that I work with right now. They're a Salesforce conduit for commerce, and they know exactly who it is that they want to work with. They stay in their lane, and I've just watched that business grow 60% year after year.
Wow!
In the marketing strategy, staying focused on it, not deviating from it whatsoever, not letting the shiny new object, the new tech over here. They know what they're great at. They stay in their lane. They do it really well, of course.
Yeah.
And just watching them do that, and they implement now a whole system to run this business. And this business is only, I should know this. I've only been working with them for about 3 or 4 years, but they were only probably a year or two before that. So it's a young company, 60% year over year, using a system just because, and it all derives from focus.
Yeah.
And then discipline and, setting the vision, what they want to do, and they got it, created the focus, and now they just back it out and are doing all the things, their annual plans, their rocks, their priorities, they're focused on it. So it's pretty magical.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good to see. So, and I've seen that with other companies as well, but just that one, when you asked me for an example.
That's a great example. And it is like something, I mean, like to what we were talking about earlier is like, there's a point that you realize that you need EOS, and it could be early stages. It could be I've had a business for a little bit and I'm hitting that wall, or I've hired now more people than I've expanded my team, or all different reasons. But it's definitely something that, like I would say, is like, read the books, understand some of that stuff, and get an idea of it. And if it's not for you at the time, the concepts are still great, and they're so valuable to helping you think about your business in a different way.
Well, what people have to understand, EOS. Now, Gino Wickman is a genius. He wrote the book Traction.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take anything away from Gino, because the man's brilliant. But he as well, when we start with new clients and in the front of the books, you're going to see his accolades, or who he's giving accolades to. And so really what happened is Gino, just a successful entrepreneur, when he was running his business, before EOS was even a thing, just as a massive learner and a smart entrepreneur, reading great books by proven authors that have stood the test of time, if you read EOS, you're going to find that a lot of the tools, he basically cobbled together all the tools he loved from the books like Good to Great by Jim Collins, and the Patrick Lencioni series of books, the 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive, or the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, or the Rockefeller Habits, and Stephen Covey's, all these different proven timeless authors that have these great books. Well, Gino he read all of these, took the tools he liked, and then after he sold his company and whatnot and helped form EO, which is in the Detroit chapter, a peer group for entrepreneurs, he decided to figure out, at that time, he looked at everything he did, and he'd probably kill me if he's listening to this, because I've kind of embellishing the story, not embellishing it by any means, but bottom line, he cobbled together all these tools from those books, put it together, some of his secret sauce, put a bow on it, and called it Traction.
Yeah.
So everything in that book is been done before. There's no magic bullet here by Gino. So the point here is that if the system as itself isn't all for you, there's tools in there that you probably read before, if you've read any of those other books, that you should be implementing in your business. The scorecard disciplines and all sorts of other disciplines. Yeah.
That's it. At the end of the day, the more you read some of those books, there's parallels across all of them. And it's, it's just called something different at the end 100%. Of the day. But having all of it simplifies a lot of the things that are needed, for sure. I wanted to pause for a second. Yeah. We're going to go to a short break.
Oh, good.
And then we'll come back and finish out with some more for EOS talk.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. This episode of Business Huddle is sponsored by Sports Legends USA. Go to sportslegendsusa.com to see all the athletes. Some of the greats are Chuck Foreman, Dante Culpepper, Tommy Kramer, and a ton of others. Would love you to go to sportslegendsusa.com. Check out some great events and memorabilia at sportslegendsusa.com. We, talking in the break a little bit, I know we were talking really, I think, high level on EOS, and as somebody that obviously works in EOS and you're implementing on, we wanted to also just touch on hey, what is EOS? Because for if you're coming into this and you're like, hey, what are they talking about? I could totally understand that. So just wanted to give you a chance to just, what is EOS, and dive in. Yeah,
we jumped in pretty quick there. So, but yeah, EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is what it stands for, and it's just a holistic way to run a business. It uses very simple, practical tools to help entrepreneurs and leadership teams achieve everything they want in their business. And so what we do, I'm an EOS implementer. So you can buy the book Traction. There you go, if you happen to see a screen, which is our textbook. And that is the textbook, for lack of a better term, of the system and how to run your business on it. So you can buy that book and just follow along on it if you'd like to. So, but what we, and then I'm an EOS implementer. So just like you can go join a gym and go do the workouts yourself, or you can hire a trainer, a coach to help you get there faster. And so I'm the equivalent of that coach, I guess, if you will, an EOS implementer is. So what EOS implementers do is we're helping businesses achieve 3 things in their company. And this is the system as a whole. So the implementer or the book, this is what we want. We want three things: we want vision, traction, and health. So what that means is we want to start with the leadership team and make sure that everybody in the business understands where they're going and how we're going to get there. What is the vision and what are we going to do to get there? Once we've figured that out, then we have to go to the traction component, and that's what the book is all about. So that's instilling discipline and accountability throughout the organization, making sure that that vision is being brought down to the ground and executed on day in and day out. And then we have this other component, healthy. So EOS helps with team health. And we know that we need to be a cohesive, functioning team in order to really love our jobs and love the work we're doing. So, and that's not always the case, unfortunately, especially with leadership teams as well. So what I do is I'll come in, I'll work with the leadership team to help introduce the tools, this system, traction, and they'll take it and then migrate all those same tools and disciplines throughout the entire organization. And I can help with that as well. But they've learned them, and now they can go do this. And so now they have a company that everybody in the business knows exactly what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go. They're getting communicated that on a regular basis. They know exactly what they're supposed to be focused on because we've introduced tools now to help hold them accountable, keep them focused on what they're supposed to work on. And then obviously having a great workspace, great work environment, a culture that likes, it's instilled in the people, and the people like being around each other, genuinely like being with each other. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish with this EOS traction system, if you will. And it's a pretty nice place when we can do that. And then the last thing before you get into it is what we try to accomplish for business owners as well, everybody, I guess, throughout the business, is we call it the EOS life.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure that if you can check these boxes, I think we're doing something right. If you're doing something you love, you legitimately are getting up to work and want to go there. You're working with people you love, customers, employees, you name it. You are making an impact. You're making a difference in the world. You're changing lives or something. And then you're also getting compensated appropriately. Let's get paid right. That's a big part of life, right?
Yeah.
So you got to check that box. And then the last box that I love is you got to have time for other passions.
Sure.
So I don't love 95-hour work weeks.
Sure.
Especially if I got kids in sports, which I did. I grew up, and I always tell people I would have sold a hell of a lot more beer at the brewery if I was going to every work function versus going to the Little League games.
Yeah.
I don't miss stuff like that. So have time for all the other passions in your life. And my wife always jokes to me, now that our kids are grown, she's like, you definitely have plenty of passions. So I got a lot of activities I like to do. So that's what we're trying to do, try to check those 5 boxes. If you can do that, everybody's in a great place, top to bottom in a company. I don't care who you are. But yeah, we're trying to implement a beautiful system. That's what EOS is. It's a system to run, a holistic way to run a business and achieve all the results that you're looking for.
That's a great way to explain it. It is, obviously something that, as I've mentioned, we really enjoy, and it's something that I think the one thing that, like, when we were thinking about it and hearing about it and discussing, hey, what do we need to do to continue growing and elevating our own selves, like, one thing that having conversations was like, read these books and things like that. What books would you recommend if you're like, hey, I need to know about it, I need to learn about it and see if it's right for me, sort of thing? Right. What books would you recommend?
Well, entrepreneurs, the leadership team, I always say, this is it. This is the book. Now, but again, very textbooky. So hard to, I like to listen to books. Because that's just what I do. And that's traction. You can listen to it. Not the easiest book in the world to listen to. Again, textbook format.
Right. Because there's activity breakoughts, right? And things of that nature.
And it's not terribly difficult. It's not like a physics book or something like that. So, but it's definitely readable. But there's also a book that came out by Mike Payton and Gino Wickman. Gino Wickman wrote Traction. Then Mike Payton, they came out with a book called Get a Grip. And you have it here, but the sleeve is missing, so it's not very climatic. If you're looking at
there's the side,
at the book. It's an orange book, and it's just, so basically it's a great fable about a company that learns about EOS, goes on the journey, really helps their business. And through that, they do a great job. Mike and Peyton do a great job, or Gino and Peyton do a great job of introducing the tools through that mechanism.
Yeah.
So it really, you kind of walk away understanding what the tools are. So that's really good. I like that book too. So maybe start with that one, then go to Traction if that's how you're wired. Otherwise, I would definitely say Traction's it. And then what happens is now there's a library of books of an EOS, and they. I've lost track of how many books we have now in the EOS
There's
library.
There's a lot.
But some of the staples is Traction and Get a Grip, and then this other one, this What the Heck is EOS? So as we implement EOS and we are going to bring it down to the other levels in the company, this is what I like to call that the Cliff Notes, for lack of a better term, of the book Traction.
Yeah.
Small book, big print. Easy reading.
Yeah.
My style of book.
Yeah.
But it does introduce it's a guide for our employees. So if you are going to be an EOS run business, it's not going to hurt you to read this one yourself. But when we get to that level and we are going to bring it down, that would be the book that I would expect or would request my employees read.
Yeah.
So that they get an understanding of what we're going to be doing here.
Well, it helps. I know that one specifically helps with the why, right?
Yeah.
Because it is like there's that sense of EOS is like you're implementing on the leadership, and it's, maybe initially it's very leadership focused, and the rest of the team is like, what's happening behind the scenes?
What's going
Exactly. But that one definitely is like a what the heck is EOS is like a here it is, and this is what they're doing behind the curtain sort of thing.
No, that's true. And in my own experience back in 2008 when we implemented, of course, when we tell people what we're thinking about doing and our employees, we're going to implement this Traction and what is it, and we're like, well, let's bring it, we're helping us set the vision and holding everybody accountable. And the only word that people hear is accountable. Like, what? They're going to be watching me? And yes, we're going to have measurables.
Short answer.
Short answer is yes, we're going to have measurables, but you can have a good culture with those accountability tools. This isn't always just we're watching. This is that we're always making sure we're on track to hit the vision.
Yeah.
And so we do implement that. So what I found in my own business is that, we did have some people kind of dig their heels in at first. And then as we implemented and rolled it out throughout the company, all of a sudden, these same people that were a little bit concerned about a system. I mean, we've been running our business since 99. Why do we got to do things different now?
Right. Yeah.
And so there was some resistance to change. And so what I thought was really great, one of the things, my aha moment is as we got it rolled out and all of a sudden the expectations were back and forth. It wasn't just, this is what I expect of you. I want to know what you expect of me. What obstacles do I have to remove to make sure that your job is better?
Yeah.
If you're my direct report. So I was amazed at how many people really bought into it and started drinking the Kool-Aid with us. Not just the leadership team, below the leadership team. So it is a good. You might get some resistance at first, but from some people that just know that. They have to report.
Change is hard, right?
Yeah. And like I just used to do my job. I didn't have to report on those things. Right. But I'm like, well, let's just make sure it's aligned with what our goals are.
Yeah. So. No, I mean, it's EOS is something we love. Obviously, working with companies that run EOS as well. From a marketing company, the thing we always think about as well is like our job is to bring the right people in the door, and then it's your sales team's job to close them, or it's your internal ops team's job to make sure that everything goes smooth from there. If you don't have some of these systems in place, there's no way to know that they're doing their job on that end. And marketing team, you can hold us accountable in the same sort of sense, right?
How great is that, though?
Which is so neat.
You said something that was awesome, and I've seen it too. And working with vendors, customers, other companies that run on EOS, and if you run on EOS, I mean the language is exactly the same now.
Yeah.
And it's really, I do see people that just really want to understand. They really want to work with companies that also run on EOS just for that exact deal. Say, okay, here's your scorecard, and people will know what that means.
Right.
But I have had, I've also seen people that don't, they require their vendors, or not require it, but they want to see the core values of people they work with.
Yeah, and it's something. I mean, it's something we share every time we're, this is our capabilities deck. Here's our core values. Here's, that sort of stuff,
Right.
and it's important, and it shows who you're going to be working with, and what to expect, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Moving into trends, so so now we have the foundation of EOS. I'm just curious, what are some trends that you're seeing that business owners should be aware of, that they should be thinking about?
Well, it's interesting. One thing I've learned recently is that, EOS has put Gino and EOS and all the investment teams that have been involved with it have done a really good job of getting the word of EOS out there and traction, the book traction. So when you're talking to anybody, it's hard to meet someone that doesn't know about it, at least here in the Twin Cities. So I just see, and I know this is a little plug for EOS, but that's a trend I'm seeing is more and more people are interested in EOS. They've heard of it. Or a system. There's other systems out there as well. And that's where I'm seeing people, and maybe it's EOS that laid the foundation, but there's thousands of ways to run your business. So there's a lot of systems out there that you can go get other books and stuff. And what we know is that you should probably have a system, a proven system that works to follow so that you can run a better business. So that to me is the first trend I've seen is more people are more interested in somebody else's operating system to run a better business. So I've seen that as definitely a trend going on as my phone's ringing more and more from more people that want to know more about EOS.
Yeah.
So that I think has been a really decent trend as well. I've seen peer groups are coming out of the woodwork. So in fact, another shameless plug as I'm forming a peer group too, because more for the love of facilitation. As an implementer, I do three things. I teach them EOS. That's part of the job. And my favorite part of the job is facilitating and making sure that the conversations with those leadership teams are getting everything out on the table. We've entered the danger if we have to. We're not, dodging topics and stuff, or just helping them facilitate to the answer. I'm not an answer man. I don't know all the answers, but just being the guy that gets to run the room and make sure that those people come to the right answer is my favorite part. And then we're a coach as well. I help coach people up and take calls in between and such like that. So, but with that facilitation side of things, what I found that's kind of my passion is I really enjoy doing that, going deep with people, pulling the Minnesota passive aggressive, helping those people actually talk about something, but getting that out there, not just negative things, good things too. So with that, I've chosen to facilitate a peer group for allied executives.
Awesome.
They're a peer group out there, and I'm forming a group to be a peer group director. So, but that was a shameless plug. Yes, I am looking for people to join my peer group.
Allied executives. I'm in an allied executive as well, and I love it. So just being able to every business, I feel like on that side of things, a plug for peer groups in general. When you're a business owner, or business leader, you're dealing with the same issues that another business owner or leader is doing, and they've been through it. There's countless things that I've experienced through running the business and whatnot. But then there's other experiences that they have, and there's different things that like you don't realize sometimes the impacts that are happening in other businesses, and starting to understand that helps you understand your customers better. It helps you understand so many other things.
So you get it. You're
shameless plug.
Huge, and that's great. I'm sorry. Maybe I did know that. I didn't remember it, but wow, that worked out really nicely.
Highly recommend.
Walk right into that one. So I don't know when this podcast is going off, but tonight at 3:00 at Excelsior Brewing Company, I'm buying beers for anyone that wants to learn about John Klick's Allied Executive group today. So but at any rate, it was a plug, but it was more than that. Is that I see more and more with whether it's EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, or Vistage is out there, and SOAR, another local one here. So just seeing great people finally figuring out that it doesn't have to be so lonely at the top. Yeah, we can put ourselves around some other people, and why not listen to somebody's experience versus just trying to fix the issue you got on the table and take a swing at it. I mean, that's expensive tuition. So if somebody can actually give me something that didn't. I even want to hear that what didn't work.
Right.
You know,
learn from somebody else's failures,
right.
so you don't have to make the same mistake. Yeah.
Expensive. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah. So those are some of the big trends I see going on.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're kind of in the quick huddle questions.
Oh, yes.
So we'll kind of these are kind of quick answer, trying to go through and a little bit of fun as well. What's one mistake you see growing companies make repeatedly?
Well, with what I see is I do see some people try to modify and tweak the system because they're different.
Sure.
And I'm like, you're not different. You're not different. It works as is. So I do see people struggle by maybe, and I'm talking about EOS specifically here.
Sure.
We have a proven process. Purity is the best. So I just see when I see people try to go off the purity road a little bit, I can just
less
see
meetings or what? Yeah, whatever it is.
We're going to do our weekly meeting every other week.
Yeah.
What the hell? Excuse me. Sorry. Or we don't like to call them goal rocks. We call them objectives or something like that. But anyway, not that those are big things, but I just see people deviating from a proven system. Why would you do that?
Right.
You know, going back to what we just talked about, experience shares. This system was built based off of something that works. And I have hundreds of thousands of companies that can say it does work the way it's intended. So that's just the one thing I see. Or people then just hiring the wrong people because they think they can do the job right.
Yeah.
And granted, they probably can just crush it at the job, and that's wonderful. But you got to live with these people. So do not make hiring mistakes based off the fact that they can do something, or if you think there's nobody else out there that can do it. Just try harder. I promise there's somebody better out there. Just try harder.
What I love that. Besides the EOS books, what's a leadership book that you're recommending, or I assume you have a Rolodex of books that you're thinking through, or a podcast besides Business Huddle, of course. Book
wise, anything by Patrick Lencioni. Is wonderful. The 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Sure.
Really helping identify those dysfunctions, where you're at, and how we can overcome those dysfunctions. Really tying everything back to trust and vulnerable-based trust, and knowing that that's where the foundation of everything is. Having a great level of vulnerable-based trust amongst each other. Now, I don't need to get into the whole entire book, but that book, I would get into that. The 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Executive by Patrick Lencioni. His books just make sense, and they're kind of written. I think they cater to me. Most of them are kind of like Get a Grip, because they're introduced via a fable.
Sure,
and that resonates to me. So I can hear about a company that kind of goes through the story.
Easier to do the audiobook, right?
Exactly. If you're going to be on a treadmill or you're walking the dogs, it's a lot easier to read through your ears. So, so I listened to those, and exactly, that's 100% right. And then what's really wonderful, and then in the back, it'll drill down on the lessons and whatnot. So it gets a little bit more into the weeds, and I love that. So that would be I could go down a path of 100 authors, but Lencioni really resonates to me.
Awesome. Yeah. What? How do you recharge outside of work? I know you mentioned your wife is like, you have tons of habits now. You've built up that stuff. I know you just traveled. What do you?
Yeah,
love to
travel
recharge?
Definitely. But I have 2 grown children, adult children. Both. I have 2, a sophomore and a senior at the U. They're both studying in Carlson. So. Really wonderful. So now we have lots of great conversations about business and stuff. So that keeps me excited. So we're big Gopher fans now. We do a lot of tailgating. I got got the truck with the Blackstone in the back. So we try to go down and tailgate with the kids and stuff. But from that point, so they're growing. But then we do have 2 young dogs, and they're a hunting breed. So I don't hunt much, but they hunt Frisbees.
Oh, nice.
But I got to keep them rolling. And so that keeps me busy. That keeps me grounded as well. And then I have if there's a lake involved, I have a sport that will cater to any condition except for maybe 1 inch of ice. I don't have anything for that, but once we get to 2+ inches, I'm on an ice boat or a windsurfer or flying a wing or a kite or in the water. A lot of sailing, I like to call myself a waterman, I guess, if you will. I do a lot of sports on the water. So that's it. And then from a professional standpoint, I can't stress it enough. If you read the book Traction, another plug, we talk about clarity breaks. and taking clarity breaks on a regular basis, and not just what a clarity break is, taking yourself away from your office for at least an hour-ish time period with a cup of coffee and working on whatever it is that you have to work on an issue. We're not there to clean out our email box, but I did it. I was just on vacation, and I found myself taking clarity breaks, and not so much for work stuff, but I have some projects that are going on that just needed my undivided attention.
Yeah,
I'm definitely undiagnosed ADHD, totally, because I bounce from one idea to the next or thought process. So taking these clarity breaks and staying focused and staying in your lane about whatever it is that you need to work on. Maybe it's an issue at work. Maybe it's an issue at home, whatever it is. Taking those, and if you can do it on a regular basis, get it in your calendar and do it. The difference is huge. It's really hard. People are too busy to focus. I'm like, no, you're not. So those are one things that's something that professionally it's helped me really just step back as well. When I do have, I just did a quarterly meeting with my assistant yesterday, and our issues list was 32 issues. And I'm like, we're not going to get through every one of those, and I'm going to have to put some time into these.
Yeah.
So, take a clarity break and figure out how we're going to work through that. So just taking time for yourself to work on something outside of just busy work. To work on a project, a task, an issue. That to me is my downtime professionally. So, and I always have music going in the background.
Nice.
Yeah, even in my sessions. If my clients want it, I'm like, I got a playlist that we'll have a little bit of background music. So that helps me, kind of grounds me as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like our office is pretty active outside. Music's on constantly.
I loved it. I would sit down and it's wonderful. Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, tons of energy. We try to keep that going. So, awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming in, John, today. And one last item that you can leave us with. Obviously, where can we, if somebody's like, hey, I want to learn more, how can I get started on EOS, or just talk to this guy? How can we connect with you? And then I guess the other thing I would just ask is, if somebody is looking to get started with EOS, can you touch on the difference between implementing yourself versus having somebody like you yourself?
Well, on that topic first, yes, I encourage people self-implement if they are just thinking about EOS, and read the book and do it yourself. But what I've found is probably 85% of my clients did that, and so found success with it. But as they decided that maybe we do need someone to be the coach, so that everybody can just be a player on the team instead of, it's hard to be the coach and a player at the same time. So when they've come to that realization and they've decided to hire an implementer, the one thing that I've learned, those companies definitely have interpreted the tools differently than Gino intended them to be used. So that's the one thing I've learned. And I know this as well because because of that, and I saw people using tools incorrectly, and thinking they were doing it the right way, or they changed it for them because, they're different. Yeah. I hold self-implementer not podcasts, but virtual meetings, live virtual meetings. I try to do them in person too, but I found that I get more of an audience now if I do them virtually. So I will do those quarterly just for people that are going it alone. And so and then I'll just go through each one of the 5 foundational tools and make sure that they're at least they completely understand the way it was intended to be used. And then they can hang up and go do whatever they want. Yeah. but I mean, after that, I just want them to do it. So that's another way for people to get introduced to doing it themselves if they want a little bit of coaching behind the scenes. If anybody is interested in the book, I'd love to send them the book Traction. That's basically how I plant my seeds for new clients. Is I say, here's the book, go read it. And when you want to learn more, call me. But I'm happy to spread the good word because it is definitely something that I think every entrepreneur, whether you use EOS Traction or not, this book needs to be on your bookshelf, and you should thumb through this book. There's great content there. So that's that. And then also otherwise, I'm just one of about 900 EOS implementers in the world now. In the world, though. I think we did a research just recently. There's probably 30, 35 of us in Minnesota area. Sure. So we have a lot of concentration of EOS implementers. So if you do any sort of networking groups whatsoever, you go to any of them, you're going to find one of us there. Yeah. You can't sling a dead cat without hitting an EOS implementer. So, but we're there. And we're always trying to help businesses. So you can go visit with somebody like that. And then what we do, or I would do as well, is if anybody just wants to learn about it or just say, hey, let's introduce this to our leadership team. Part of our proven process in EOS, the first thing we start out with is what we call a 90-minute meeting.
Sure.
So I'm like, just give me 90 minutes of your time and your leadership team, whoever you think that is. Bring them in and give me 90 minutes. I'm going to do a little bit of discovery on you folks, and then most of it's going to be me just opening the fire hose on EOS tools and just drowning them with all the data, what we have. No, but it is to introduce this. Here's the goal, here's the journey that we go on with every client. We follow the same exact process. In those 90 minutes, and they kind of get to see who John Klick is, and if maybe I'm the guy to work with them, and maybe they're like, no, I don't like him. Let's get another guy or gal. So then I'll introduce them to somebody else. So there's so many other implementers out there. That's what I would say. And those 90-minute meetings are free. They're not a high pressure sales thing.
Sure.
People I know get on defensive with that type of stuff. We're like, no. This is just if you're remotely raising an eyebrow and you haven't even read the book yet, I would say it's totally a good time to meet with an EOS implementer. Say, would you just do a 90-minute meeting with me and my team so I can understand it? And then maybe we'll go back and read it. Maybe we won't. And if they do, great. Maybe I'm the guy to help them out. Or if not, like I said, I got 900 other people in my back pocket that are implementers that we all drink the Kool-Aid and we drink it together.
Yeah.
And we love each other. And we just really want to help first. And we want to make sure that every entrepreneur is getting that EOS life and getting everything they want out of their business. So that's what it's about. So we're there. We're anywhere in the community. Look up EOS Implementer.
Awesome. John, thanks so much for coming and sharing some great insights on EOS, your background, all that stuff.
Yeah, and thank you to you guys with all the events that you do. You're really making a difference.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Skål.
Skål.